Last week we took a dive into the past of Resident Evil, looking at the HD remakes of the original and its prequel, Resident Evil 0, leaving us with 10 RE games to dive into and review. Hey guys, Kane from VividChim here, and today we're looking at the next game in the RE story, but to do so, we actually need to jump forward to the year 2019, whilst also taking a turn in both genre and control scheme. That's right, today we are covering the Resident Evil 2 remake, a game which I have been putting off playing for this exact reason for so long now. I am very excited to play this game, and I've heard nothing but good things, so does it actually live up to its very high reputation? Well, let's find out then, as I ask Resident Evil 2, how bad can it be? The story of Resident Evil 2 is probably the most recognizable in the entire series, being set in the fictional Raccoon City in September 1998, around 2 months after the events of Zero in the original. Due to an outbreak of Umbrella's T-Virus, the entire city has been turned into zombies and a whole heap of other monsters. Like in RE1, there are 2 stories to be played in Resident Evil 2, but unlike its previous game, both of the stories are actually canon, or, well, sort of. It's hard to explain, but there are actually 4 possible scenarios for you to play in RE2, not including the 4th Survivor, Tofu, or Ghost Survivors DLC, none of which we're actually covering in this video. The main stories have an A and B scenario, both of which can be played by both Leon and Claire, and it's a little confusing as to which one is the correct canon, as it was one way, but does it still apply in the remake? Also, the scenarios overlap in a way which doesn't really make sense if they are both canon. It's a little weird, but for the purposes of this video, I did Leon A and Claire B, which seems to be the most common one. I actually really like the storylines in both of these campaigns, but the stronger of the two for me by far was Claire, simply because the performances in her run overall were much stronger. Now that's not to say Leon's run didn't have any strong performances, the police lieutenant Marvin Brana and the gun shop owner especially being fantastic, but Claire's is just top to bottom better for me and has a more interesting variety. Resident Evil 2 looks fantastic. It just looks beautiful, and I'm not even playing this title at its max potential. I really wish I could though, because the way this game looks adds so much to the atmosphere, which for me at least is what really takes Resident Evil 2 to the next level. The dingy dark halls of the police station, walls soaked in blood, and the lighting? Incredible. The models are great, slowly tearing apart zombies with your attacks is brutal, just everything from how this game looks is near perfection. The audio is also excellent, because for the most part, it doesn't have any music. It's pretty much just a sound effect experience, with the game letting you walk around the police station in near silence and in the dark, and that might sound simple to some, but it really ratchets up the tension of this game so much, especially with the enemy sound effects looming around you. Zombies are just your standard snarls, etc., but the slow walking of enemies like the Lickers as they stalk you through the halls, and then the sudden jolts that they make when they think you're nearby, incredible. And then there is the thumbnail boy himself, Mr. X. There is a reason he was what everyone was talking about. He adds so much to this game, but the sound design of his footsteps just struck dread in me. Hearing him march his way around the police station, searching from room to room is great, especially when you hear it get louder and louder. Just fantastic. Can I just say that after 2 games with a gameplay style that I wasn't really a fan of, this was such a breath of fresh air for me. That's not to say everything is perfect. The inventory system, for example, is a little bit disappointing when you have to manually place every single item. Now, it's not all bad, as it does give you the opportunity to combine items as soon as you pick them up, but having to stop the flow every time I pick up a herb got a little bit tedious. That being said, the way you interact with puzzles is just excellent. You go to the interactable, you interact with it, and it opens your inventory to pick the item. No more having to open the menu, try an item, and then have it fail because you were looking 2 degrees too far left. The game ran absolutely beautifully, feeling smooth throughout the 17 hours of game time I logged, and unlike the other games I've played so far, it played perfectly on a mouse and keyboard, really letting you hone in those shots for maximum efficiency. It felt so nice to play this game. The puzzles were all interesting, being brain-tickling but at the same time not overly complex, and the enemy variety was just fantastic, especially when they combined in the halls of the police station, creating some very interesting scenarios. Especially when Mr. X comes into the picture, who immediately throws off any plans you might have. You'll find yourself travelling different ways to your destination, trying your best to avoid the tyrant as you traverse the police station. He adds a level of tension via quick thinking, and while you'll eventually just have a plan to get around him wherever you are, some situations can be really tricky, like this one where I was in a hall with Mr. X and a licker. Mr. X makes me feel the urge to run, but by doing so I also trigger the licker to attack me. At the same time, walking away from Mr. X doesn't work, and it's pointless shooting him. I could attack the licker, but the licker isn't the main threat. It's that level of quick thinking that can just happen in Resident Evil 2, and it's really what made me fall in love with this game. Then we have the boss fights, which are pretty lackluster, honestly. Most of them are just run and shoot the weak point, which is the staple for RE games, but it feels especially the case in RE2, as you fight the same boss multiple times in different stages. The boss areas are also just that, an area. A small arena for your one-on-one, which is kind of bland. They are fun and require some pattern learning, but as long as you have some ammo, you're probably not going to struggle too much. I only struggled with the final boss of Leon, and that was actually my only 2 deaths of that run. Overall though, from a gameplay perspective, Resident Evil 2 is genuinely one of the most consistently brilliant experiences that I've ever had in a video game. Resident Evil 2 is just fantastic. Top to bottom, the best experience I've had in this franchise review so far, and I wouldn't be surprised if it stays that way. The game for me balanced horror and action perfectly, giving you enough firepower to really feel like a badass, but at the same time, blending that in with the incredible atmosphere, world design, and more importantly, the threat level. It really made for an experience that, regardless of how stacked you were in terms of firepower, you were always cautious and alert. If it wasn't for the slight tediousness of the inventory system and the repetitive, lackluster nature of the boss battles, Resident Evil 2 would be a perfect game for me. What do you think of Resident Evil 2? Let me know by putting your thoughts in the comment section down below. I would love to hear what you have to say about this game. If you do want more VividChim content though, why not hit that like button as well as the subscription button with that tiny little bell to be notified as soon as the next video drops. I've been Kane from VividChim, and I'll see you all soon.